Vergil Ortiz Jr. stops Maurice Hooker in the 7th round. Now, this was a fun little fight while it lasted. You had Vergil Ortiz on the front foot. Maurice Hooker tried to stand with him and bang it out early on in the fight. But as it progressed, Hooker started using the ring a little bit more, trying to fight at range. It's always frustrating for me watching Maurice Hooker because he's one of these guys with very long arms who doesn't know how to use them properly. He doesn't maximize his reach by being side on. He squares his shoulders up a lot. He throws a lot of bent arm right hands rather than getting proper extension on it. His positioning in terms of his feet, as I say, the way he positions his upper body, it's not conducive to getting maximum extension on his punches, which is what you really should be doing if you've got arms as long as his. So always frustrated me, that's something that's always frustrated me about Maurice Hooker. He actually tends to prefer to fight up close, but unfortunately in this fight against Vergil Ortiz, Ortiz was the stronger guy up close, the more powerful shots. And do I want to say the more accurate? Yeah, I think he was the more accurate. I think the CompuBox or whatever it is recorded him as being the more accurate guy. Although Hooker definitely got his fair share of shots in, Vergil Ortiz's face was pretty marked up by the end of the fight. But, Vergil Ortiz reminds me a bit stylistically when he comes forward. I don't know if he's got a back foot game yet. Maybe those of you who have watched him a lot more than me will be able to tell me, but his front foot game is a little reminiscent of Miguel Cotto. The way he throws his shots, his stance and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not quite the hand speed of a young Miguel Cotto, but similar in terms of the way he comes forward and attacks. And he's exciting. He puts a lot into his punches. There was a few times when he threw himself off balance when missing shots because he really tries to load up and put everything into them. 22 years of age, so he's still a pup. He's got a long way to go. And yeah, I thought it was a decent performance overall. He managed to basically break Maurice Hooker down over the course of 7 rounds. He dropped him in the 6th. In the 7th round, Maurice Hooker came out, got hit with a shot, and simultaneously, I think, landed somewhere awkward with his own right hand, and he hurt his hand and he turned away, went down, and basically decided not to continue. He quit in the fight. And I've got no issue with fighters quitting in tough fights where they hurt. I got no issue with that. I know a lot of people, a lot of fans are really harsh and fighters are really harsh. But in this instance, Maurice Hooker, who is a friend of Terence Crawford, right? It was kind of interesting because Amir Khan quit against Terence Crawford and Crawford was, kind of a little condescending and what have you about that. But then his own friend just quit in front of him as well. Really and truly, it was a similar kind of situation to the Khan situation. But be that as it may, Vergil Ortiz looked really good. I don't think he's ready for the likes of Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. I don't think they'll be losing any sleep over that performance right there. And I think it was Sergio Mora in the DAZN commentary team was saying the same, that he doesn't think Vergil Ortiz is ready for that now. Maurice Hooker said the same. And by the way, the post-fight interview was hilarious. Where Maurice Hooker started having a go at the crowd for booing him because of the fact that he quit. But he said that Vergil Ortiz isn't ready for that next level yet. And I agree. But hey, whether he's ready or not, if he wants to fight those guys, and look, he's fighting in, what was this? WBO International welterweight title. So he's fighting at world level now. Right? I know Maurice Hooker's not a proper welterweight. In fact, was this his first fight at 147? I believe it was. Well, 144 in his last fight. Of course, lost to Ramirez back in 2019. Okay. Yeah, so it was his first fight at 147, unless there was fights earlier on in his career. Maybe. But for all intents and purposes, certainly at world level, it's the first fight for Mo Hooker at 147. Wow, Hooker's got 3 draws? Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here, people. That's unusual. His pro debut was a draw. Okay, so yeah. you could, I guess, say Hooker's world level, even though he hasn't fought a welterweight. He was certainly world level at 140. We can all agree on that. So if he wants to go in there against the top guys, hey, let him go in there against the top guys as far as I'm concerned. But if you're thinking from a manager's perspective, you'd probably want to pump the brakes on Vergil Ortiz at the moment. He's got plenty of time. And with boxing, it really is about timing. It's about taking the right fights at the right time if you're thinking from a managerial perspective or a career development, fighter development perspective. As fans, we want to see these fights immediately. We don't want to wait, And Chris Mannix actually on the DAZN broadcast was saying the same thing. He was saying, nah, let's throw Ortiz in with the top guys now. Why wait? See, this is when you get great performances a lot of the time historically, is when young guys step up to the plate and people think it's too early. And sometimes it is too early, but sometimes you get a Muhammad Ali against Sonny Liston. There was nothing in Ali's previous fights that suggested he could do that. He'd just been dropped by Henry Cooper, got in there and absolutely dismantled Sonny Liston. I mean, Teofimo Lopez, a lot of people were saying it was too soon for him against Vasyl Lomachenko. Got the win there. So I like to see young guys step up, believe in themselves, take fights that people think are maybe slightly too early. Yeah, I like that. Obviously, sometimes even Lawrence Okoli, right, against Krzysztof Glowacki. So if Ortiz feels he's ready, if his team feel he's ready, go ahead and do your thing and try and take on a Terence Crawford or an Errol Spence. But personally, I doubt they think he's ready for that. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Vergil Ortiz's performance here. Were you impressed? He landed a lot of big shots on Mo Hooker to the head, and he did drop him in that 6th round. But he said himself after the fight that Mo Hooker surprised him a bit with his ability to take a headshot. He was hurting Mo Hooker more with the body shots, but the headshots, Hooker was able to take him. And when you consider the fact that Hooker is a guy coming up from 140, does that mean we have to ask questions about Vergil Ortiz's punching power? Or was it just a case of him not really catching Hooker the way he's caught some other people? You let me know what you guys think in the comments. But from a technical point of view, I liked Vergil Ortiz's jab. I liked his body shots. His head movement was decent. A little predictable at times, but it was decent. He seems a little stiff in the back. He doesn't seem that supple in terms of moving his upper body. He does move his head, but it's not as supple as you see with some people. So maybe that's something he could work on. Like Canelo, for example, his head movement is a lot more fluid than a Vergil Ortiz. So there's things he can work on there. But yeah, I like the jab, like the body shots, the positioning. Really overcommits on certain shots at times. I want to say that's a mistake, but he's going for maximum power. This is like Mike Tyson. If you ever saw Mike Tyson miss a shot, you knew that punch was devastating if it landed because of the way Tyson missed with the shot. Right? You could just see the momentum, the tremendous momentum he had behind the punch. And Vergil Ortiz is a bit similar to that. He's really loading up and throwing everything into the punches. So if that misses, yeah, you're going to be off balance. You're going to look a little clumsy here and there, which is definitely something he's got to be careful of. But from an entertainment perspective, I like to see guys, I'm a big fan of power punches. Yeah. And I will do the video I talked about a few weeks ago, talking about power punching and how to train power punching and so on. But anyway, yeah, long story short, Vergil Ortiz manages to deal with Maurice Hooker in 7 rounds. A good performance, but I would say not spectacular performance. Is he ready, in your view, for the likes of Terence Crawford, for the likes of Errol Spence? You let me know what you think in the comments below. And by the way, just to conclude, it was great to see a crowd back in attendance. No muzzles and none of this Orwellian entry requirements that they're talking about in the UK. None of that nonsense, thankfully, in Texas. So big up to the governor for that. And yeah, just great to see boxing back where it needs to be going, or at least in that direction. So let me know what you felt about Ortiz's performance in the comments below. I'm out.